This wild dog was alone and had no place to call home. When this grizzly bear approached the canine, it did something that no one had ever seen before. In a forest close to the borders of this European country, there was a small village in which generations of families resided. They lived peacefully and in harmony with the natural world around them. It became commonplace to see animals visit the area because of how respectful they were towards the wildlife. The welcoming villagers were happy to provide these creatures with food or shelter if they ever needed it. In particular, wild dogs would regularly visit the outskirts of the village. These animals never tried to enter, and it seemed they understood that they were different from humans. Nevertheless, these canines were always open to receiving treats from the kind people. However, everything changed when a factory plant was opened a couple of miles from the village. The villagers noticed how the animals stopped visiting them. It turned out that the factory was in charge of fish production, and as a result, a landfill was created in between the village and the plant. The dogs were drawn to the landfill and all the fish that had been dumped there. It became their new favorite location, and it was not uncommon to see wild dogs at the landfill at any time of the day. However, there were other hungry animals residing within the forest. The scent that came from the piles of fish could be detected from a mile away. Not long after the dogs became regular at the landfill, bears came along, looking for the new source of food. Bears are one of the most well-known apex predators in the world. This is especially the case for brown bears, a species which has evolved to become a very versatile hunter. These wild dogs were good at hunting, but they were also smart enough to identify animals that were stronger than them. When the first bears came to the landfill, they arrived as a huge group. The dogs were terrified to witness so many predators at a time. Nevertheless, these dogs were also wild animals and were willing to fight to protect themselves and their food. Fortunately, no fighting was necessary. Several bears took their share of fish and returned to the forest without any fuss. It turned out that these bears did not want any hostility with the dogs and were simply looking to satiate their hunger. Eventually, the canines warmed up to the bears. After a couple of weeks, the wild animals were able to sit and eat together side by side. As nice as things were, a big change was coming, which would end up affecting the relationship between these two groups. Unfortunately, the factory had begun to produce toxic waste, and the fish in the landfill soon became inedible. The dogs were the first to discover what happened to their food. There weren't many choices left for the canines. Many of them migrated to another part of the forest, resorting to hunting like they used to. There were, however, young puppies who were unable to provide for themselves. The villagers heard of what had happened to the landfill and took pity on the puppies. Out of the kindness of their hearts, some people took the remaining dogs in. While the older dogs were able to source food elsewhere, the young ones still had a place to call home. However, there was one puppy that had been forgotten by everyone else. This young husky was not old enough to learn how to hunt, but it wasn't as young as the newborns which were readily adopted by the villagers. For a couple of days, this lonely husky was left to fend for itself. It continued to stay close to where the landfill was located because it was safer than entering the deeper areas of the forest. The local residents knew about this husky, but there wasn't enough space left to take him into their homes. After a month passed, the villagers were concerned about the whereabouts of this husky. When a few people visited the landfill, it was no longer there. Just as the worry began to spread across the village, a person spoke up, claiming that they had spotted the husky a few weeks ago. According to this villager, she was walking close to the landfill and saw a family of bears interact with the young husky. The brown bear approached the wild creature and did something totally unexpected. The woman said that she hid behind a tree and watched the moment in silence because she didn't want to disturb what was happening. She saw one of the bears lean down, gently pushing the dog towards its family. It looked as if the bear was inviting the dog to join them. When the group of grizzly bears started to walk towards the forest, the dog followed obediently. The bear that encouraged the dog to join them was at the dog's side, as if guiding it. Once the wild animals were no longer in sight, the woman returned to the village, telling only her closest friends of what had occurred. Word spread around about the unusual friendship between the bear family and the husky, and a quadcopter was sent to investigate the situation further. After searching for hours, the drone finally found them. It turned out that the rumors were true. The footage captured the dog playing with the bears in a grassy field. Surprisingly, the brown bears were gentle with the canine. This is considered strange behavior for these types of bears. Most people identify brown bears with danger, since the animals have a record of being violent, even towards humans. However, there wasn't a single sign of wariness or hostility coming from these bears. In fact, the cubs seemed to enjoy spending time with the husky, rolling around and playfully pushing each other. Once the camera zoomed out, the viewers were able to see the mother bear sitting close to her children. She was the largest among the group. Accidentally coming across a mother bear and her kids is something that people should avoid at all times. However, this particular group had no problem being in the presence of a different species and was surprisingly inviting. It is very common to see mother animals be protective over their children. Just like a female lion and her cubs, or elephant mothers and their calves, she-bears are creatures to be feared if anything was to threaten her cubs. And yet, the mother bear had full confidence that the wild dog was trustworthy. At one point, the mama bear walked over to the husky and started nuzzling it as if it was one of her own. Not long after the footage was shared online, the local residents saw the dog wandering the area around the village. Every time this happened, the husky was always accompanied by the friendly family of bears. Some people would watch in awe as the wild animals walked around. The husky would return to the village every now and then so that it could visit its canine friends, the ones that were adopted by some of the villagers. At first, the dog seemed wary of the husky's new foster family. Although the canines and bears had gotten along at the landfill, it had been several months since everyone went their separate ways, and the dogs were now unsure as to whether the bears still saw them as friends. Nevertheless, the bears displayed friendly behavior and seemed happy to meet the husky's friends. The husky and his bear family would not stay at the village for long, but their short and sweet visits left a positive impact on the community. Like in the past, everyone looked forward to when they would next see the group of wild animals, especially because it was this exclusive group. It's not every day you get to see a dog be part of a bear family. That's just crazy, yet so true. Who knew these two species could ever become friends? Or in this case, family? I sure didn't. No matter what people previously thought about wild animals, these particular brown bears have proven that kindness is not overrated and can still be found, even in the wild, amongst different species. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please comment below what you thought of it. What was your favorite part? If you want to see more videos like this one, like and hit the subscribe buttons. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you'll be notified when we upload. Take care. I hope to see you again soon.